hello. It's the hello. Welcome to the Broski Doodles podcast, the best podcast in all the land. It's your boy KIKO Flow, Kiko Cervantes, and today we got an interesting movie review with the crew. Today's movie, this one is, normally I come here and I'm always like, hey guys, this movie was fucking amazing. Let me put it on my top 10. And I got a top 10 that's like top 100 now because, we review a lot of good movies. But every once in a while, we get to a movie that's peculiar. That's a little different, The movie we're reviewing today, which you would have already seen in the title, is White Noise. It recently came out on Netflix. And, one of the main characters, the main actor on it is Adam Driver, which, I appreciate as an actor. I've seen him in other works that I like. Now, normally, people come to this review to watch it after they've seen the movie, right? So, to sort of speak about it. When you get out of the movie theater, the best part is speaking to your friends about it. Like what you thought was shit, what you thought was good, what didn't make sense. So this is pretty much that, in a nutshell. But there are sometimes people that come without having seen the movie and they just want to get a quick glimpse. Okay, should I watch it or not? If you haven't seen this movie yet, White Noise, waste 2 hours on it. If you have not done that, don't fucking do it. Okay, save yourself those 2 hours. Go visit your grandpa at the residence, give him a kiss, tell him about your stories, ask him about his war stories. Or if you have kids, take them out to the park. Maybe have that, beast conversation with them depending on their age. And if you just live on your own with your girl, maybe take her out for dinner, But don't waste these 2 hours on this movie. There's no point, okay? There's no point. Now, for the other group of people that are here because you've already watched the movie, then, you're in for a treat. We're gonna talk shit about it because this was one of the worst movies that I've seen. With Netflix movies, I gotta say, it's a hit and a miss, I would say maybe 30% of the movies that I watch on Netflix that are produced by Netflix come out being like, decent or better. And yeah, but a big majority is just shit. But I had high hopes on this one because it had Adam Driver and the trailers, they're actually very, very interesting. And it leaves you like, oh, what the fuck happens here, And let me give you the sort of the summary of what they put. Like if you go to Netflix and you click on this movie, the summary they have there before you watch it, I think is a bit misleading. It says, college professor Jack Gladney and his family's comfortable suburban life is upended when a nearby chemical leak causes the airborne toxic event, releasing a noxious black cloud over the region that forces the Gladney family to evacuate. When you see this is very much in par with what the trailer showed you. It's like this black cloud that comes and everybody has to evacuate. And you're like, oh shit, like War of the Worlds. What's going to happen here? Now, what my mindset is, okay, look. This is most likely going to be a shit movie, right? But the fact that it has to deal with like a world-ending event where people have to evacuate, you're like, okay, there's going to be some action here. At least some interesting stuff's going to happen. I'm not a fan of action films, but hey, I was like, if it doesn't work by having a good plot and a good story, then it will work by simply being fun and entertaining to watch because of the visual effects and the explosions and the action, right? Well, this was neither, right? So it didn't have any action. And then it just had the weirdest story. Like, for people out there that are not into the LSD world, right? People that are not really into drugs in general. You're like, hey, look, I didn't really dabble into that. Have a little wine, maybe a little Prosecco. But that's it. If you ever wonder how it feels to be an acid, right, on LSD, White Noise, this movie is very similar to that. Not a good trip though, a good trip will be a lot more fun, but this is a little bit how you can compare how your mind gets twisted and fucked, where you're like, oh shit, what is this? And then something happens and then something else happens where you're like, this doesn't make sense, it doesn't go with the other scene. And this was a mind fuck. White Noise was a mind fuck. And you know what I think? This is a theory I have. Sometimes there's movies that try to be very like poetic, art house style, where like it's like, oh, you have to be smart to understand it. And it's like, I understand that's the case with some movies and some art, but I find it that most of the time when something is too complicated to understand, like art should be something that you can see and quickly get an emotion from it. A true, inspiring, and enjoyable emotion. That's what I think. And if something is too confusing to even understand it, I think the artist fails there. Because I don't like this artistic like mindset of, oh, if you don't understand it, then it's your problem. You don't get it. I mean, I'm not saying make some shit that's super easy and with no depth. But when something is too abstract and confusing, most of the time the story itself is shit. There's no like hidden gem. There's no like secret thing you gotta figure out to be smart. It's just simply the artist was being lazy and they just make this shit very confusing to try to prove a point, like, oh, it's artsy. That's what I think. And like, I'm sticking with it. I do want the comments for people that saw it, because this is like, even though I love watching good movies, whenever I watch a movie that's shit, the most fun part for me is going on the podcast to review it. Because, I do things and I create things that I myself would consume if it was available. And one thing that I think is cool is, if you watch a shit movie, you already wasted the time. It would be cool to at least have someone talk about it, to rant on it, because that's fun, right? But you don't have that all the time. Maybe the movies you watch, your friends don't watch. Maybe you don't have friends. That's fair. That's cool too. Like, people, I think, overestimate how important it is to have friends and people you connect with. People say, like, in life, the main thing of life is connecting with people. Since the internet came out, I think people are overrated. Maybe you can do without, right? I'm not saying that's how I do it. Every day I try to, become more like sociable. I am a friendly guy. I'm fun to be around, I believe. But I'm not really fond of crowds of people, right? And that's how I am. But, I understand if somebody just watched this movie alone in their house, maybe a serial killer. Serial killers also like consume content, right? So imagine a serial killer is watching this movie White Noise, right? And after they watch the movie, they're high on PCP, of course. They're like, this movie sucks. This was like horrible. What the fuck was this? And he's like, you know what? Tonight I'm gonna go kill. Because this shit got me so triggered that now I need to go do what it is that my mind is designed to do, which is be a serial killer. But right before he goes and do that, he goes on YouTube and finds this video, the review for White Noise, and he's like, let me take a look at it. Maybe this guy saw something I didn't. And then I'll go into the killing. But let me just quickly watch this video. What is his name? Broski Doodles? Yeah, I'll fuck this guy's up. Okay, boom, boom. And he watches this thing, and then he's like, oh shit, this is so fun. He's right, this shit was a piece of shit. And not only does he get entertained by ranting about the movie with me, but also he, in his mind, confirms that he's not that crazy like people say. He was right about this movie being a piece of shit, and he's not missing anything. In his mind, he's like, oh no, I got the movie just sucked. So if I could just save one life through this movie review podcast, then that's all I care about, really. White Noise. Do you have somebody that you want to torture? You can tie them up and put the White Noise movie on a loop. After the first few times that the movie is watched, people are going to start going insane because nothing makes sense in this fucking movie. And let's get right to it. Adam Driver, I actually don't think it's his fault, because I'm pretty sure the way that he had to say the dialogue was based on the director and the producers and shit and the writers. But the whole movie, especially Adam Driver's character, everyone in that movie spoke like nobody speaks. Like, from the moment the movie starts, I'm not connected to anyone in the movie, because they don't speak with dialogue that humans speak with. Like, it was so robotic, and it was eerie, And I'm thinking, okay, let me go along with it. Okay? Yeah, I understand that the way that they speak is a little weird. The scenes that are happening don't really make sense. But I'm like, you know what? Let me give the motherfucker the benefit of the doubt. Because you know what's great? When a movie all comes together towards the end and then he fucking flips you to the fucking head and slaps you in your mouth and tells you, did you like it or not? Were we right? Did we have it all figured out or not, you piece of shit critic? And I'm like, hey, chills, I'm not a critic. I'm just a podcaster. And I like to, talk about the movies that I watch. And they're like, oh, but no, I will fuck you up. I'm like, hey, yo, chill, man. Like, I'm not even a critic. I'm not even a reviewer per se. I'm just a shit talker, Right, so, but the way that they speak in this movie, and there's a great actor here that I love that just baffles me that he's in this movie, Don Cheadle. He's so great. And in this movie, he's so weird, man. And again, I don't think it might be the actor's fault. Maybe that's how the script said it. I mean, I do put a little bit of fault into the actors in the sense that, look, you look at this script and you go see this movie, really? I mean, you go make the movie. Just to me, it's just a little... Like, you should maybe know if the script is bad. But hey, this was definitely a very artsy movie, like one of these art house movies, independent films. E39, which is a producer, is there. It's a very independent, very like small producer that makes great films. But on this one, I think they fumbled the ball. This was based on a book written by Don DeLillo about it's a book called White Noise. When I found out that this was based on a book, I could tell that the way that people spoke in the movie, the dialogues, were very much like how a book is written. And it was hard for... I don't read that much, so, for the people that read a little bit more, tell me if I'm right on this or if I'm just fucking stupid. But there's this difference that is hard to even describe for dialogue in a book, where even if on the book is not as real, the dialogue between the humans, you can sort of present that in your head and interpret it in a way where you can make sense out of it, and the story pushes forward and you buy in. With movies, and I would assume this is what happens whenever they make a movie based on a book, you have to create a script that fits the movie. Even if there was already dialogue on the book, you need to make it so that on the human connection side for the viewer, it looks real. And when I saw this movie, it reminded me of when I used to read books. I don't really read that much these days. I'm trying to read more. But when I would read a story in a book, sometimes the way the dialogues that people would have will sound a little weird. But for some reason on the book, you're like, okay, I can buy it. But on a movie, I realize, I'm like, oh. And I think it could be that they use the dialogue very similar to the book, and it sounds weird that way. But I think this is something that makes the whole movie... I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, this is just one thing that makes the whole movie bad, but it's one that just, you don't even buy in with the characters. There's movies that suck, that at least you can enjoy some characters because of their personality. But here, I don't believe anybody. They all look like they're doing some troll movie where they're joking about it, and it's so weird. The wife of Adam Driver, Greta Gerwig, is her name. Very cute actress. I actually wanted to like her, but I just never believed her because the whole movie is not believable, because the whole movie sounds weird. Doesn't even sound like real dialogue. The kids are so fucking annoying, and I'm sure that's part of what the movie's supposed to show you, but they just keep asking 1,000 questions that don't make sense. Like, yo, shut the fuck up. Like, my dad would have thrown a hammer to my face if I would have asked so many questions like these kids did. He's like, is the cloud coming? No, it's not coming. But how do you know it's not coming? Because I know it's not coming. But how do you know? I'm like, yo, shut the fuck up, bro. I mean, it is true that dad never knew what the fuck was happening. And he never responded adequately to situations where it's like, yo, you should be worried now. And he was just like, ah. So at the beginning, the whole thing is like the fucking exposure of this toxic event, right? How the whole accident that happens where like a train is coming and then a truck crashes into the train and then it spills the whole thing doesn't even make sense. It's like the typical thing where like the driver of the truck was like checking for, like his bottle of whiskey, and then he didn't see, like, dude, you could see the train from like many miles back. It's not something that just comes out of nowhere. But in any case, so the thing spills and it becomes like a black cloud, and then they're asked to evacuate. So you're like, okay, this shit is boring, it makes no sense, the dialogue is shit, but okay, something's happening now. There's this weird thing we don't know about. We don't know how afraid we should be. There's a scene where they're like in the car lines in the highway, because obviously an evacuation, people go to the highways and they're all packed. Like in Florida, when there's hurricanes and they need to evacuate north, all of the highways are packed. So this is, what's happening. And there's a scene that actually made me get a little hopeful about the movie turning into a good movie. One of the daughters on the car says, what's happening? Like, they're not telling us much. They're just telling us to evacuate, but we don't, like, how grave this is. Like, how bad are we? And the mom is like, don't worry. Like, we're not sure how afraid we should be. But don't worry. Like, we'll find out later. And she's like, well, that makes me even more afraid. Like, not knowing how, and this was funny, right? Because they were looking at other people in other cars, trying to gauge how scared they were or worried, to see how, worried or scared we should be. And that's funny how, like, humans, we have that dynamic with other people, that we kind of imitate and we kind of need to know. But it was a cool idea, because it is true. Like, when COVID happened, the whole time, you're kind of like, at the beginning, of course, it was like, I kind of want to know really how bad this is. And even if it's really bad, I want to know now so that I can prepare mentally. The fact that you didn't know how bad this could be, if it was like everybody was going to die, or if it was just like, some people were going to get sick, that was like a fear that I never had before. So I related a lot to that little girl when she said that. She's like, fuck, the fact that I don't know how afraid I should be makes me more afraid. And that's real. That's real talk. That's real talk. Facts. So now the movie's getting a little body. I'm like, okay, there's like a storm, there's like a bad thing coming. They're trying to escape. They're telling them to go to some like campsite north. Okay, cool. So I'm like, all right, something's happening. They get to the campsite. A bunch of people are there. And then the next day they're told to evacuate again. And every time they're told to evacuate, people go crazy. Like, you would think like, okay, let's organize, let's do things. No, everybody just goes insane. It started getting a little weird, because I'm like, okay, what's happening here? So they evacuate again, and then eventually, at one point after a few days, they say, oh, look, it's all good now, you guys can go back home. And then that ends, and a new whole thing starts, which is the wife was taking a pill, and he's trying to figure out what this pill is for, and a whole nother movie starts. And they don't address the fucking cloud. They don't talk about the fucking cloud anymore. You're thinking the movie's gonna be about the fucking cloud. Not any longer. Another movie starts touching a theme, which is death. Again, the dialogue doesn't make sense, because if your wife is taking some pill, you're looking at her taking the pill, and she denies that she's taking any pill, well, you're gonna have a conflict, right? You're gonna be like, okay, look, either you're crazy and we need to put you like in an institution because you're lying to my face about something that I'm worried about, or you tell me, right, or we get separated because I don't want to be with somebody that's lying to me. I mean, it's just, he keeps asking, like, all right, so tell us what is this pill you're taking, Dylar? And she's like, oh, I'm not taking anything. Dude, it's so fucking weird. Nothing makes sense. The dialogue doesn't make sense. I keep going back to the dialogue because the dialogue carries the movie. Carries. But it's present the whole time. You can never start to take serious anything because the dialogue throws it off. So she starts taking this pill, and eventually she says, this pill I take because I have this extreme fear of death. And I take this pill because apparently they're doing some studies. This pill is not out in the market, but this pill, Dylar, could help me not be afraid of death. Which I don't even know. Like, a pill normally is going to solve a condition, right? But if your condition is you're afraid of death, like, it's like saying, oh, I'm afraid of dogs, and you're going to take a pill that's going to make you not afraid of dogs anymore. It just doesn't even make sense, like that, how a pill could solve that, right? Who knows, you know? Maybe it was like some antidepressant type shit where you're like, it's not you're afraid of death. You don't even give a fuck about anything, you know? So, dude, I start relating to this and I'm like, okay, you're already an hour in this fucking movie. We're going to have to watch it and, you know, end it. I'm like, okay, if anything, this is going to be a nice podcast episode for a review. But I'm still hopeful. I'm like, okay, she's taking this pill. She's afraid of death. He says, I'm also afraid of death. Like, I think we're all afraid of death. And she's like, no, but I'm like more afraid of death, right? And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Maybe this is going somewhere else. And I relate to this because I think about death a lot. And sometimes in an unhealthy way where like I'm fixed to the fact that we're all, you know, marching to our, you know, hopeless, inevitable demise, you know. And I think a lot of people just try to forget that because, oh, it's so far away, right? Because it's such a horrible idea. And I think the whole human civilization, you know, has always found ways through religion or cults to sort of feel better about death and feel calm that there's going to be something else so that they don't feel so bad about it. So I'm like, okay, I kind of like this because I sometimes think about death and I think like, shit, this is going to end. This sucks. This is going to end. You know, I don't want it to end. I want to continue to do like, I want to do podcasts forever, like just forever. You know, like podcast 1,754. Okay. Today, you know, I'll be older, right? Because you're still going to get old, but you're going to be like 240. But you're still going to be good, like, you know, dick rock hard. You're still going to be able to eat shit. Like, that's the type of old I want to get to. Like, if we're able to get to a place where we can live a lot because of technology, it has to be with the conditions, right? That I can still fuck, right? Hard. Like, hard. I mean, not all the time. You sometimes want to go soft. But always have the energy available if you need to go hard. If it's required. That's how the type of old I want to get. Like, oh, you can eat chicharrón. Or you can eat fried mozzarella sticks. Or just fried mozzarella, just like a chunk of mozzarella cheese, just fry that shit. If I can eat that, then cool. Like if I have to be like on some state where like I'm in a wheelchair, I have to eat some paste that they feed through a tube, and I have one eye that works and half my mind I forget who the fuck I am, then no, I don't want, you know. I prefer to, you know, put white noise on and, you know, let it take me. Type shit. So death, I was like, okay, cool, this is a new concept for the movie. Maybe I'm gonna like this fucking movie. And bro, I fight through it. I get to the fucking end. Which the pharmaceutical company that provides Dylar in this study that they're doing is actually some fucking weird German guy in a motel, in a highway motel, shitty motel. And then this, you know, driver finds him because apparently this guy had sex with his wife because that was the exchange they had so that he could give her pills. But the pills don't even work on her, so why are you getting more pills? Maybe you just like fucking this guy. Adam Driver starts going crazy. He also wants the pill, but maybe he doesn't want the pill. Maybe he just wants to find the guy with the pill so that he could kill him. And she even tells him, like, I'm not going to tell you who this guy is because you're a man and men are killers. Like... Bro, this was, I swear to God, who again, this was written by a book by Don DeLillo. This motherfucker must have been in a room. Let me see who this guy is, man. In a room with like 7 of his buddies just doing hard LSD and shrooms. And then they just put words together. They're like, oh, we're going to sell this. It's going to be so good. It sucks, man. It fucking sucks. The director is Noah Baumbach. And, you know, he did like, I mean, a movie that I remember that he made is like The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou, which is a good movie. I actually liked it. I mean, aside from that, I don't really recognize. He was apparently in Madagascar. He did the screenplay for Madagascar 3. But I mean, he's in the business, but I didn't like. And then, you know, the book they chose, Don DeLillo's book about whatever the fuck, I mean... man. Don Cheadle's character would say some random shit that made no sense at times. And then the movie ends with them shooting the guy. Adam Driver shoots the guy. The wife gets there for no fucking reason. She doesn't know that he's gonna be in the motel with this crazy guy that sells the pills. He shoots the guy with 2 bullets, then gives the gun to the guy to make it look like he killed himself. Well, he doesn't give it to him. He places it on the guy's hand. Then what happens? The guy's not dead, so he has 1 bullet left and shoots them. But, you know, they're hurt, but not too hurt to die. And then they decide to take the guy that they just shot now to like a hospital to now all get cured. It's like, were you trying to kill him, bro? It makes no fucking sense. And then at the end, at the very end, you're like, okay, there's 5 minutes left of this movie. Please tell me there's some attempt. I'm not gonna say they're gonna do it, right? Because at this stage, I lost all hopes. But I'm like, please, at least give me an attempt to reconcile whatever happened in this movie and give it a little bit of sense. The last scene, they take the guy and themselves to the hospital, which is a church, which is serviced by a bunch of nuns from Germany that speak English in a German accent. And she tells them, like, God doesn't exist, so if you're here to pray, get the fuck out of here. We're only here to cure, because if you believe in something that doesn't exist, then you're fucking stupid. And then they just look at each other, the sun comes out, and then they just fall there. And then they tell them that the guy that they were going to try to shoot and killed, that he's fine, that he's going to make it. And then they're, like, happy about that, and then the movie ends. And then, like, the feeling that I had that this was going to be a waste of time comes true, to the highest degree. Like, I've seen bad movies. One of the worst movies I saw, we've reviewed it here, is Don't Look Up, with Leonardo DiCaprio, Jonah Hill, Meryl Streep. Cast-wise, this was supposed to be a fucking good movie. Jennifer Lawrence is in it. It sucked. Like, it sucked. But even in that movie, which was shit, they did an attempt of having a plot that starts, goes through some conflict, and ends. Even if it's all shit. This movie doesn't even attempt to make sense of all of this. And I bet there's people out there that are like, man, you don't get it, Kiko. This is even deeper, bro. This is deeper. You gotta go deeper. You don't get it, bro. This is part of like death and scared and like... To me, this movie is like one of those abstract paintings in a museum that they just throw paint all over the fucking place. They did it in 5 minutes while they were high on PCP, and then they sold it for $45 million. And if you try to say like, oh, but that's nothing, I could do that, they're like, oh, you don't get it, you don't fucking get it, man. The movie's so deep, you don't get it, you're fucking stupid, you will never get it. No, I think I get it. I think the movie is just shit, white noise. Please tell me what you guys think. Also, what you guys thought of this review. It was a special one for me because we had not had bad movies in a while. This was just, not only a bad movie, but just top of the list. Like, this is top 10 worst movies, Netflix, I don't know what you're doing sometimes with these movies. I cannot even rescue cinematography in this movie. The movie that we reviewed, 2001: A Space Odyssey by Stanley Kubrick. I didn't personally like it. It was very abstract-y. But I appreciated how good it looked, the cinematography, and the attempt to at least make some weird shit make sense, which to me didn't make sense. But I mean, this white noise movie is on a whole nother level of shit. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. Subscribe to the motherfucker. Leave comments, like the comments that you leave are gonna really matter. Like, if you have a movie that you think is good, we can review it. If you have a comment about the movies that we are reviewing, please do. Maybe, we can get a little bit of context as to what other people think about them. We're on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're everywhere that you can listen to podcasts, we're there. Obviously, you have the YouTube version, which, I think it's a little more comforting because you see my face and you can, get the whole audio-visual experience, which I think is a lot, more exciting. But if you're out there running, doing your errands, and you just need to hear it in the audio, well, we worked really hard to make the audio sound good. So you got Spotify, iTunes, or you can just get it illegally. I'm pretty sure that you can pirate this thing. Do it. I don't care. I love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Peace. Oh shit! Before we leave, I mean, this is kind of stupid, but I'll give it a scale because we always give a scale 1 to 10. The lowest that we can give something is 1, so I'll just give it a 1. But yeah, this movie was just one of the worst movies I've ever seen. But yeah, I just wanted to say that. I love you guys. Peace.